Have you ever had that feeling, deep in the middle of the night, that you aren't alone? That feeling of a sudden chill, or a sound you can't quite place? For most of us, it's just our imagination. But what if it wasn't? What if the very walls of your home seemed to turn against you? In a quiet countryside village, nestled on the edge of a thick forest, the Winters family lived a peaceful life, or so it seemed. Their peace was about to be shattered by a series of events that defy all logical explanation. In just a few days, their home became the site of something no one could understand: fires with no cause, heat from nowhere, and a mystery that refused to stay buried. This is a story of unexplained flames, strange whispers in the night, and a presence that haunted the shadows. It was late August when the first incident happened. At around 3 a.m, the peaceful stillness of Summerwood Village was broken. Mr. Archer Winters, a quiet farmer in his 50s, was jolted awake by a flickering glow outside his bedroom window. He rushed downstairs, heart pounding in his chest, only to discover the family's living room engulfed in orange flames. But here's where the story takes its first strange turn. The power to their home had been cut days earlier for routine maintenance. There were no gas leaks, no electrical faults, nothing that should have sparked a fire at all. And yet, the room was burning. Neighbors, awakened by the commotion, rushed in with buckets of water, helping the family frantically put out the blaze. When the smoke finally cleared, the fire had vanished, leaving behind only a single charred floorboard and a cloud of unanswered questions. No one could explain it. 3 nights later, it happened again. This time, around the same early morning hour, a fire began in the kitchen. The flames seemed almost deliberate, as if they were drawn to the very center of the room before spreading outward. But once again, when inspectors arrived, they found no faulty wiring, no heat source, no logical point of ignition. An entire drawer of silverware and utensils was burned down to ash, but strangely, the wooden cabinets right next to it remained completely untouched. It was as if the fire had a specific surgical target. Local firefighters, seasoned professionals who had seen it all, later admitted off the record that they felt something odd in the air that night. A heavy stillness, a strange pressure, like the moment of dead calm right before a violent storm, but without any weather to follow. The air itself felt charged with an unseen energy. Within 5 days, the Winters home burned 4 separate times. First, the living room. Then, the kitchen. After that, a fire appeared in the upstairs hallway. And finally, in the basement. Each time, the fire started with no explanation at all. Investigators from the fire department, local police, and even electrical specialists from the city were completely baffled by the lack of a source. According to the official reports, there was simply nothing there to trigger these flames. It was as if fire was being created out of thin air. This wasn't the first time tragedy had struck the Winters family. In a chilling coincidence, just 5 years earlier, their previous home, which stood only a few hundred meters down the road, had also burned to the ground in another unexplained blaze. Back then, investigators couldn't find a source either. At the time, everyone wrote it off as a tragic accident, a case of terrible luck. But now, with a new house burning in the same mysterious way, the villagers weren't so sure. Some started to say it was more than just bad luck. Some whispered that the very soil beneath the land was cursed. That's when the strange whispers began. It started subtly. Neighbors reported hearing low, echoing whispers outside their windows in the dead of night. It wasn't the wind, and it wasn't animals. These were voices that seemed to speak words just beyond the edge of understanding. A local shopkeeper, Mrs. Davison, who lived down the road, claimed she was woken one night by what sounded like a child calling her name, the voice seeming to come from the edge of the woods bordering her property. When she got up to investigate, there was nothing there. The woods were silent and still. Rumors began to spread through the village like wildfire. People started speaking in hushed tones about shadows moving at the edge of their vision. dark flickers that would vanish the moment you tried to look at them directly. An unsettling paranoia began to grip the once peaceful community. Then, one night, the third night after the last fire, something truly unsettling occurred. At exactly 3:33 a.m., a time recorded by a motion sensor Mr. Winters had installed out of desperation, the front door of their house creaked open on its own. The family was certain it had been locked and bolted hours earlier. As the door swung open into the dark house, the temperature inside dropped sharply. It became so cold, so fast, that frost began to form on the inside of the windowsills, even though it was a mild August night. And then something passed through the hallway. It wasn't a trick of the eye. It wasn't a shadow cast by a light, because all the lights were off. It was a human-shaped silhouette, a void of darkness, moving silently, without feet, down the hall. The next morning, when the family dared to inspect the area, they found no human footprints inside or outside the house. There was only a small, fine pile of ash on the floorboards, right where the silhouette had stood. With no logical answers coming from officials, the villagers turned to their own theories and local legends. They whispered about ancient spirits, guardian entities of the forest, and even portals to other worlds. Some believed the land itself was a conduit, a place where the boundary between our dimension and another grew thin during the dead of night. Others spoke of a tragic ancestor of the Winters family, a man named Elias Winter, who was said to have lived on that very same plot of land more than a century ago. According to local folklore, Elias had died in a fire under mysterious and tragic circumstances, and his spirit never found rest. Some versions of the story say it was an accident, but other, darker versions claim his anger was never extinguished, and it now haunted the land like a flickering, vengeful flame. On the fifth night, the night after the fourth fire, the entire village felt it. A thick, unnatural fog rolled down from the nearby forest, covering every field and home like a heavy gray shroud. The village dogs began to howl in unison, a mournful, eerie sound that echoed through the mist. Footsteps were heard on empty streets, and those chilling whispers seemed to be everywhere, luring people out onto the road at odd hours, as if something was calling to them from the fog. No one in Summerwood could sleep that night. Windows rattled in their frames, with no wind to shake them. And in the Winters' old barn, the one building on their property that hadn't yet burned, lights began to flicker on and off on their own, casting long dancing shadows that bent and twisted in unnatural angles. The whole village was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. But then, as dawn approached, it all just stopped. The fog lifted, the whispers faded, and the fires never returned. No definitive explanation was ever reached. Scientists, investigators, and skeptics all examined the phenomena, but none could pinpoint a cause. Was it some bizarre, undocumented natural anomaly? Was it a paranormal presence, the restless spirit of Elias Winter? Or was it merely a series of unbelievable coincidences that spiraled far beyond logic? The whispers, the shadows, the impossible fires. They all remain unsolved, a chilling local mystery that continues to haunt the villagers of Summerwood to this day. It serves as a stark reminder that some mysteries are too strange, too haunting, to ever be fully explained. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unexplained. What do you think happened to the Winters family? Let me know in the comments below. Stay curious, and see you next time.